Hey guys, how we doing? So we're back at another video from Alexander's, or however we pronounce his channel name. We're doing another Hunter x Hunter video, obviously. Well, not obviously, he's done other stuff, which I think's really cool, looking through his channel. He's got some interesting Full Metal Brotherhood analysis videos and, excuse me, other things. But I'm really enjoying the Hunter x Hunter discussion videos. We've done the Morality of Gone Freaks, which was just awesome. Blew my mind. I was like, whoa, it's an interesting way of looking at things that I didn't even notice. And then the importance of Ahsoka, which I gave a little bit too much of my own insight at the beginning, but you guys didn't seem to mind, so that was cool. This one is the unusual dynamics of Hunter x Hunter's Zoldyck family. And yeah, the dynamic within the family is so strange. And it's so bizarre, because when Killua went to his family after the thing, I was not expecting the whole way that his dad just went, "Is he your friend?" He's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, go there and protect him, and you know, I'm fine with it." I was just like, that wasn't what I was expecting from that. And then the mum's weird, and then the way he did the whole using his siblings' power on his mum to get out of there, and she's proud of it, and then the brother beats him up, and then the older brother, it's awesome. It's just really bizarre, and they are so freaking powerful. His granddad's like one of the strongest people out there. And anyway, let's get into this. The unusual dynamics of Hunter x Hunter's Zoldyck family. No major spoilers. Well, I've seen it so far.
There seems to be an innate fascination associated with fictional tales with less than orthodox interfamily conflict.
Game of Thrones.
One of the most interesting aspects about the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones series for me involves learning about how the different families function and how tiny or not so tiny differences in motivation between the members might have an impact on future events. Another example would be the latest generation of Fire Emblem games, which is advertised as an emotional and conflicting bunch of stories about family drama. The games didn't end up executing their potential as well as I had hoped, and I really just ended up playing them for the characters and gameplay rather than the plot, but the premise itself was so fascinating to me. It's hard to pinpoint why the concept of interfamily dynamics and conflict is so inherently interesting, but I think that it has to do with the deeply intimate nature of family, and how monumental it is to be at odds with the ones who raised you and that you grew up with, independent of how well or otherwise you were treated. And this is one of the key themes that's explored through Hunter x Hunter's Zoldyck family.
The Zoldyck family.
A group that isn't as prominent as the Phantom Troop or the Chimera Ants.
No, they're not.
And that tends to remain in the background and keep to themselves, save for a few exceptions.
That's what makes them more interesting,
but
though.
one that has a big impact on the story and characters in its own way.
Because they're so powerful.
Now, the Zoldycks aren't at each other's throats just yet, but there's certainly enough plotting, mistreatment, and motivational differences to make the interfamily conflict within the Zoldycks seem relatively substantial. Along with this, I've so far failed to mention that they're a family of world-famous, highly skilled assassins that respond to the highest bidder.
They're amazing.
And when the highest bidder needs someone to be killed in the world of Hunter x Hunter, huge things are afoot. Combine the business-like fashion of the assassin jobs that the Zoldycks carry out with the more intricate motivations of each of the members, and this family becomes truly multi-layered. Each little action can have a sometimes monumental domino effect, and one that may or may not be able to be seen without hindsight. And this is what makes them so compelling. The Zoldyck family is so unique in the way that they function, and each member is driven by such different goals, that it's hard to tell where each of these characters' stories are going, because even a tiny change in one of these characters might have a large consequence or conflict. The Zoldyck family also contains little hints of quite emotional concepts and themes sprinkled throughout the story and communicated via the characters and lots of subtext. And I'll do my best to point some of these out. Togashi is a writer with an immense attention to detail.
Oh god,
and this can be seen not only through some of the world-building tidbits and the Nen rules that he includes, but also through the subtleties of the Zoldycks. Like I said, this family are by far the most infamous assassins in the world. They take the biggest contracts and tend to fulfill them with minimal fuss. Led by Zeno and his son, Silva. They reside in a manor inside a dormant volcano called Kukuru Mountain, and are very far removed from society apart from their employees.
You cannot get to them.
They keep to themselves and are so good at discreetly carrying out their job that any photo of any member of the Zoldyck family is worth millions. The children need to be brought up into the assassin business from a young age, so they're subjected to all manner of torture in order to build up a nearly inhuman strength and a tolerance to things like pain, poison, and electricity. It really is a
Killua,
terribly
for example,
cruel
with the
way for a
electricity.
child to be brought up, and while there is some familial love between certain Zoldycks, this is usually either unhealthy, as is the case with Kikyo, or between siblings, and the family is generally treated more as a business. The
Yep.
Zoldyck children seem to be allowed to express themselves and pursue their interests, but only if they stick to the family's strict guidelines and carry out jobs, with few exceptions other than when it comes to the special case of Killua.
Killua Zoldyck.
I'm not going to cover Killua at great length here, or else we'd be here for over an hour,
Could
and
be a
that's
long
another
time,
video
wouldn't
for
it?
another time. At the same time, though, when discussing the Zoldyck family, it's essential to mention Killua's role, because he's arguably the most pivotal member and the root of the family's
Well, yeah,
actions.
because of how things go
Every
on in the
generation of
last
Zoldycks
arc
has a
of the
prodigy,
anime.
a special child with extraordinary powers that stands out among the rest of the siblings. This prodigy is always given the rights to be the heir to the family business, and it just so happens that Killua is his generation's heir. His siblings do have some incredible talents, but Killua towers over them.
Oh, he really does.
Predictably, his family gives him special treatment and structure their behavior to try and optimize Killua's chances of becoming a cold and worthy leader of the Zoldycks one day. Killua's grandfather, father, and mother have him in mind a lot of the time, and while I wouldn't say that all of the other children are necessarily shunned, it's pretty obvious to basically all of the family that Killua is the important child.
Yeah.
This has a gigantic knock-on effect. Due to the older generation being so fixated on Killua, he's also the focal point for the behavior of not only the Zoldyck servants, but all of his siblings as well. Get used to seeing this visual map of the Zoldyck family dynamics,
Right.
because it really is a good tool in understanding how everything
Wants to
functions.
control, wants to
And this is
free
only the
all.
tip of the iceberg.
Wow.
But right here, all I'll ask you to pay attention to is Killua.
Yeah.
As you can see, he's the center of everything.
Wow, okay.
Each of the family members has their own views and feelings on Killua, and these feelings tend to shape their characterization, being a big reason as to why the children act the way they do.
Right.
So while Togashi does well in establishing the storied history and far-reaching impact of the Zoldyck family business, it's clear that during the time span of Hunter x Hunter, Killua is the focus. He's both directly and indirectly the root of a great deal of what makes the Zoldyck family so fascinating, and a lot of the intrigue associated with them stems from all of the different ways in which the Zoldycks perceive Killua.
Right. The Zoldyck servants. Oh, okay, cool. The butler's in that. Cool.
The servants of Zoldyck Manor are tasked with absolute servitude and obedience. It's their life-bound job to carry out their duties with efficiency and without
Which is so
outward
weird,
emotion.
but okay.
But despite this, it's clear that these servants care more about some of their employers than their job description entails. They form
Coin
allegiances
thing
and
was
pick
cool.
favorites, and this just deepens the complexity of the Zoldyck family. To start, there's Goto, a dutiful butler
Oh,
that does his
Goto.
job without fuss, tasked with communication between the manor and the outside world. He remains professional, but sometimes lets his emotions get the better of him.
A little bit,
He
yeah.
has a small rivalry going on with Tsubone and Amane,
Yes.
is much more sensitive to the needs of Kikyo than nearly anyone else, and cares greatly for Killua. Enough to
Well, that's
consider
to
his
most
orders
of them.
secondary to Killua's well-being and happiness at times, and enough to make me pretty sad when he met his fate.
Oh man, that was so bad.
Next, we
I
have
did not think
Canary,
he was
who's
going to
allied
go.
with Goto. She
Canary.
initially comes off as pretty heartless and blindly loyal to her employers when she continually denies Gon entry into the manor, but becomes moved by his attempts to reach Killua.
Because she's just
Her
his
facade
friend.
of pure duty fades here, as we see that above all, Canary just cares for Killua.
Mhm.
All she wants is to see him happy. She's more than willing to ignore orders if it means that Killua benefits, which has ramifications on the plot on more than one occasion. Both of these servants are supervised by Zeno, and grew up in Meteor City. This likely means that they were starved of meaningful human affection, and explains why both grew so attached to Killua when he showed them even the littlest bit of respect.
Just like, yeah.
Another important servant is Tsubone, the elderly woman employed by Silva to keep
Who
an
can
eye on
turn into a
Killua during
motorbike.
the election war.
And a plane.
She comes off as quite strict, and is fiercely loyal to Silva. She harbors a dislike for Kikyo, perhaps due to her unhinged antics, and says that she simply can't love both Illumi or Miluki, because of how much they remind her of their mother, which is a very important line. Tsubone does care quite a bit, as she has been shown to treat Alika with kindness, show affection towards Killua, and become emotional at times. Lastly, we have Tsubone's granddaughter, Amane. Not much has been given away about Amane,
No, we don't know
but what
that
is
much.
clear is that while she tries to act like the ideal servant, she is far from cold and calculated,
Yeah,
and actually has a rather feminine and emotional demeanor.
she does.
as
I
noted
thought
by
it was quite
Canary.
funny that at the airport.
She mainly tries to just follow orders and her grandmother's lead, being relatively neutral to the Zoldycks. All of these servants aren't instrumental to the actions of the family, but tiny contrasts and differences in motivation means that they are an ever-present element, in the dynamics of the famous assassins, and more often than not have a role to play.
Maha Zoldyck.
Maha Zoldyck is a mystery. So little is known about this man that I was debating on whether I should include him at all. Maha is Zeno's grandfather and is said to have been an incredible fighter in his prime, with Netero having been the only one to ever survive a fight against him. It's possible that this strength still remains.
Cool.
He's only seen in the series during the assassination of the 10 Dons with Kaluto and Illumi during the York New arc, and is completely detached from any other family member in this graphic, given the basically untouched label. From this, we can assume that he has little to no relationship with the other Zoldyck family members, but again, he is such a mystery that it's nearly impossible to tell at this point.
Right. Alika and Nanika.
Let me get one thing out of the way before talking about Alika, because I get loads of people confused about gender when it comes to this series. Alika is biologically a male, but identifies as a female.
Right.
This is why her family members call her a he, but Killua, who is more sensitive to her feelings, calls her a she.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Male, because Killua calls her that, and I like Killua. But Alika is male. I don't usually like talking about the gender
wants
of the
to be referred as a girl.
who are ambiguous.
That's amazing.
As I think that in most cases it's just not interesting to talk about. But I thought that I should address that.
No, that's
anyway.
That's an interesting
Alika
point.
is brought into the story during the election arc in a seemingly abrupt fashion, but there is a bit of foreshadowing regarding her existence earlier on through this photograph in the Chimera Ant arc, where Alika is seen facing away in the bottom right-hand side. Alika is the second youngest Zoldyck, and has an amazing power.
It's incredible.
She has a sort of split personality with a supernatural being called Nanika, and the pair are able to grant wishes. This power is not as simple as mere wish granting, though. There are a large number of rules and implications that go along with the granting of the wish, a lot of which went over my head the first time watching.
Oh god, I didn't understand it either.
I forget even now. The mechanics of this power are as such. After a person fulfills 3 of Alika's requests, Alika will grant them a wish. She does this by changing into Nanika after the 3rd request is fulfilled. The wish doesn't have to come from the person fulfilling the request,
music, I love it.
and Nanika usually responds with a simple K or I, indicating that the wish will be carried out. Nanika can virtually grant any wish, even those that seem impossible, but there is a catch. And herein lies the danger of this power. Requests can range from something simple like a hug, to literally being asked to carve out one's organ.
Yeah, like take part of your organs out.
The catch is that the bigger of a request that the wish was, the bigger demand or cost that the next 3 requests will have. And if the next person that Alika asks requests of denies her 4 times, they and their loved one, and possibly more, will die. 2 people died like this after Miluki wished for a new computer, but if a bigger wish was previously granted, the death cost of the subsequent denied requests could be huge.
Yeah.
In one such case, the cost of a gigantic wish resulted in 65 people dying, all associated by some degree to the one who denied the request.
Mad.
There are further rules as well. When someone dies due to denying Alika, the wish cost is reset. This is the best time to make a wish, as the request demand will be minimal. If Alika begins asking someone for requests, those requests can't be transferred to someone else.
It has to be that person, doesn't it?
So if someone goes into hiding, Alika is harmless as long as she does not see them again.
She can't ask anybody else, yeah.
If someone dies in the middle of their requests, it's a failure, and at least one more of their loved ones will die. Also, Alika cannot request anything from anyone if she doesn't know their name. Killua has special privileges due to his relationship with Alika and Nanika, which allows him to have his wishes granted without any consequence or repercussion for past wishes. And the same person cannot ask for a wish twice in a row, unless that person is Killua. Killua also knows that some creativity in phrasing the wish can occur, which is a loophole that can allow for more than one wish within one wish. Lastly, if Nanika is required to heal something, it must touch whatever it is healing.
Yeah, it has to
Those
physically...
are all the rules that apply to Alika and Nanika's power. As you can see, it's quite convoluted, but this is likely due to the Full Metal Alchemist-like equivalent exchange rules that apply to restrictions and strength that are prevalent with powers in this series. In Hunter x Hunter, the more restrictions placed on a technique, the more powerful the technique is. This is demonstrated in many points throughout the series, such as Kurapika's power and Gon's Dark Transformation, and seems to apply to Alika and Nanika as well. It's an absolutely monumental power that Alika has here, and this makes her almost as much of a focal point as Killua, with everyone having their own opinions on her. The servants largely sympathize with her, but also have strict orders. Zeno, Silva, and Kikyo seek to control her power, and are quite cruel in their methods of doing so. Miluki just does whatever his parents tell him, Kaluto is jealous of Alika, Illumi wants to both control and harness the power, and Killua simply loves her. Nanika has a frightening appearance and a monotone, cold voice, but she has been shown to care, and both Killua and Alluka love Nanika, considering it a dear friend. I'd say that Alluka is comfortably the most important Zoldyck other than Killua, though Illumi could make a claim. She has so many functions. Her original purpose was to heal Gon and save his life using Killua's privileges, but she also indirectly gives us a deeper glimpse into Killua's character, gives him a new lease on life.
Definitely does, yeah.
And reveals some even more darkness that resides within the Zoldyck family. There are some obviously very dangerous complications that come with being associated with Alluka's powers, but regardless, the way that the Zoldyck shunned her, refrained from accepting her as a member of the family, and tested out her deadly power on innocents, adds even more malevolence to a family that was already quite sinister.
Yeah, it's dark.
They believe that Alluka has no soul,
really dark,
when it's clear that she's just a normal kid apart from her power. Alluka does all of this and also manages, along with Nanika, to be a sweetheart who did nothing intentionally wrong, and simply loves Killua with all her heart. The scene in which Killua initially decides to get rid of Nanika, only to tearfully go back on his decision after being convinced by Alluka, was one of the most emotional in the arc.
Yeah.
There is ambiguity regarding the background of Alluka and Nanika at the moment, but there's a pretty solid theory that Nanika is a sort of pseudo-spirit originating from the Dark Continent that ended up inside Alluka. As Jing explains, the Dark Continent is the progenitor of some of the greatest threats known to mankind. The 5 great calamities. Brionne, Pap, Helbel, Zube, and Ai. It's speculated that Nanika is indeed the calamity Ai, who is said to be a gaseous life form that is sort of parasitic
some manga stuff.
and codependent, seeming to need a host to function optimally. This would be consistent with the nature of Nanika. Not to mention, I might well be named after a sound that it commonly makes, and we know that Nanika is prone to saying I when it grants wishes. I personally find this to be pretty convincing, seeing as Nanika's power is literally unlike anything we've seen in the series thus far, and more or less consistent with the way the sheer and unique
buy those
power
volumes of manga
beings on the Dark Continent is described.
33, 34. 32, 33, and 34 actually, because someone told me that the last chapter of 32 is not in the
Kaluto is one of
anime.
the more understated Zoldicks thus far, but he does have quite a bit to his characterization. And yes, he's a boy too. Kaluto is a bit unsure of himself and his place in the world, but the one thing that he knows is that he cares for his big brother. This essentially shapes Kaluto's character journey. He really isn't too bothered with the family business, and decides to join the Phantom Troop, primarily to become strong enough to bring Killua back home. Due to his belief that bringing Killua back to the Zoldyck Manor, a place that Killua clearly hates, is a good idea, I'd wager that Kaluto is either not very perceptive, or simply insensitive to Killua's feelings, which is appropriate and something I'd understand given his upbringing. Also, it's been theorized pretty heavily that Kaluto's feminine nature is a result of his jealousy for Killua's love for Alluka.
Right, that makes sense.
Kaluto sees that Killua loves someone that he treats as a little sister, and consequently has a feminine demeanor. Now, I don't know if this theory is correct, but it does account for Kaluto's otherwise unexplained envy of Alluka. And if it is true, then it really puts a tragic spin on Kaluto's character. The lengths he would go to simply receive affection from his brother. Kaluto, to me, is a subtle but sad display of what growing up in an environment like this will cause. He's insecure, feels unloved by everyone except his mother, doubts his abilities, and doesn't know his place.
That's some emotional stuff.
Kaluto has had a pretty minor role in the story so far, but I'm pretty convinced that he'll be a big part of the upcoming chapters in the Dark Continent arc. Keeping in mind where Hisoka and Kurapika's stories are going, anyone who has allegiances to both the Phantom Troop and the Zoldyck family at this point in the story have the potential to be a huge factor in future events.
Miluki Zoldyck.
Miluki has an unusual narrative role in his family. He's cowardly, selfish, and actually really immature for his age.
Very.
He's all too aware of the imbalance of family focus and is pretty clearly jealous of Killua. He's gluttonous and spends most of his time watching anime, reading manga, and playing games.
God, what a loser.
When he ventures out to buy a copy of Reed Island, he states that he hadn't been outside since he was 10 years old. He is 19 at this point. He probably carries out his killings using indirect methods like drones. Miluki is a coward.
Technology.
He picks fights with Killua, but never wants to truly make him upset and face his wrath, and he obeys his father and grandfather with resentment at times, but without question. He is also quite cruel, as shown when he convinced someone to decline Alluka 4 times in a row, causing him to die. He just isn't emotionally developed. He's short-tempered and craven, and lives within a comfort zone, which seems strange given that he's an assassin, but also makes total sense if you think about how being overshadowed and tortured must have had an effect on him. Although there are hints that Miluki is actually pretty perceptive and intelligent, despite his immaturity. He admits that Killua is special, but says that he's too emotional to lead the family, which is a pretty accurate summation. And Zeno himself proclaims that Miluki is actually very smart, but too lazy and caught up in his own world to achieve anything special. He is very tech-savvy and likely the big connecting factor between the Zoldycks and technology.
Well, yeah,
as
because
none
he's
of
always
the
on his
others seem
computer.
to spend too much of their
What
time
a
on
loser.
computers. So he does have a pretty crucial role in the family. Miluki also plays a very big role in terms of tone. In the past, I've talked about how Togashi usually doesn't like to have the tone of an arc or aspect of his stories lean too far one way or another,
Right.
and how he usually likes to use tools to balance this out. Miluki balances the tone and feel of the Zoldyck family.
It is very well.
He's mostly
written.
a lighthearted
And
character
it's just
that the audience
amazing.
laughs
Hunter
and
is so
pokes
good.
fun at, and this adds an element of whimsy and dark humor to a group of characters that are otherwise pretty serious and dark.
Yeah.
Togashi not only introduced a fascinating and foreboding family, but through Miluki, he maintains Hunter x Hunter's unique quirky flair, while establishing the Zoldycks as something completely different. It's unclear at this point regarding just how Miluki feels about his situation. He could be happy that he gets to be a shut-in his whole life, or he could harbor some resentment and regret that he isn't doing more.
Yeah, wishes
Either
that he
way,
was
at
out
the
there doing
moment, he
stuff.
just goes with the flow, follows orders, and does not affect the family dynamics much. I really don't enjoy Miluki personally, and find him to be one of the most unlikable characters in the series.
Yeah, didn't
But
really
at the
do
same
much for
time,
me
I
either.
do think that he's a great demonstration, and a less subtle
But-
one than Kaluto,
Yeah, because if he wasn't there,
of just how
you
broken
wouldn't
a
have
child
that
living in
little
this
bit of
situation could end up,
quirkiness
and how unhealthy the Zoldyck dynamics are.
with
He
the bidding
sees
as well.
Killua's
He was there.
friendships as foreign and wrong.
And he was
and
the
he
one that
didn't
knew about
become this
Greed
way by
Island, which made
accident.
sense, because he was always on his computer. Kikyo Zoldyck.
Kikyo is absolutely unhinged.
She's so
She's
weird.
possessive, excessive, and overprotective. The interesting thing about her is that she has her children's best interests at heart,
She really
but is
does.
so extreme with everything that she goes about it all the wrong way. Kikyo clearly loves her family, with the exception of Aluka. She dotes upon Kaluto and loves both Illumi and Miluki, but she's especially fixated on Killua. She is exceedingly proud
When
of
he
Killua's
threatens her
talent,
life, she's like,
and
"I'm
wishes
so
for nothing more
proud!"
than his success as a master assassin. However, he's constantly smothered by her, and cannot afford a second to breathe. She is so overprotective of him that she
You
doesn't
would
want
get
him to
annoyed
get
with
close to
it.
anyone, and tries to prevent him from leaving the house on several occasions. Which really makes me wonder how Killua managed to enter Heaven's Arena at the age of 6. Anyways, eventually Killua got fed up and slashed her face when she didn't want to allow him to go to the Hunter exam. And instead of being upset, Kikyo was proud at this,
Yeah.
saying that Killua was showing the killer instinct and coldness
That they want.
that he needed to become head of the family. She's just so imbalanced, and probably a big part of the reason that Killua finally said that he'd had enough. Despite her love for her other children, it's obvious to them that Killua is the big focus in Kikyo's eyes, which causes them all to react in differing ways. A lot of her behavior is dictated by what will, in her opinion, benefit Killua, so she doesn't exactly hide this very well.
Nope.
As I mentioned earlier, Tsubone says that both Miluki and Illumi remind her of Kikyo. And this makes total sense. Miluki is emotionally immature and Illumi is possessive, and it's very possible that both sons got these traits from their mother.
No, they are.
It's been said that Kikyo has always wanted to have a girl, but has constantly been disappointed, which is
Aw.
why she raised Kaluto as if he was a female,
Ah,
which is another theory and something of note. I've always had a sort of pet theory with Kikyo.
right.
She originates from Meteor City,
Oh,
meaning that she was likely lonely early in life.
yeah, makes
The
sense.
servant Goto listens to her troubles and sympathizes with her, perhaps because he too can relate. But regardless, she eventually found some sort of love in Silva, and had a family. Now, I think that going from no one to care for to a full family to love was too drastic a change for Kikyo's
Yeah, just
mental
really big
state.
for her.
Being overwhelmed with love, but not being used to it, may have sent her off the edge into unhealthy affection. And if true, this would add a pretty dark edge to her character. Anyways, it's just a little theory of mine, but I thought I'd share it anyway.
Yeah,
Let me know
decent.
what you think.
Makes
if you
sense.
want. All in all, I personally believe that Kikyo's unhealthy
Maybe she just
manifestation
doesn't
of
know
love
how
and
to
need for
treat
absolute
them.
control is the root of the majority of the problems
thought.
within the Zoldyck family.
Silver. Okay, let's get into this.
Silva Zoldyck is the ideal model assassin.
It's amazing.
He's cold, calculated, calm, an absolutely stellar fighter, and does
The
his
way he
job.
kills the
Throughout
cheetah
the
one and
series,
just goes, should I have
Silva shows up
spared his
wherever the
life?
job tells him to go, and rarely ever lets his emotions get the better of him. He has very limited meaningful emotional interactions with his children, tending only to speak with them about the business.
Yeah, but
However,
the conversation
though
with
Silva does
Killua.
not tend to connect with his children that much, he showed a surprising amount of understanding and sentiment in his conversation with Killua.
That's what I'm talking about. It was
before
amazing.
The latter set out on his adventure. Like his wife, Silva has high hopes for Killua.
Yeah,
but unlike
they made that
her,
blood pact,
he
didn't
is
they?
very much at ease with his son's actions, which causes Killua to show respect for his father. For the occasion where Killua made off with Aluka, Silva has a pretty relaxed attitude about Killua, contrary to what you'd think given his character.
Yeah, I didn't expect
And I
it
find
at
it
all.
interesting to compare and contrast Kikyo and Silva in this aspect. While they both want Killua to nurse his cold and emotionless nature, a big difference between Silva and Kikyo is that Silva offers Killua more freedom to explore himself, likely due to believing that it's his son's nature to be an assassin and that all roads will lead to the same
He'll eventually just
destination.
come around anyway. Yeah, that's what he
believes that he has
thinks.
instilled the necessary darkness in Killua due to his teachings, and that his approach to nurturing Killua's assassin side will bear fruit. Overall, Silva is the template for what the senior Zoldycks hope Killua will be like, but most importantly for the series in general, he is a loose antithesis of what Killua wants to be.
Zeno Zoldyck. Or Zeno.
Zeno is the
There we
patriarch
go.
of the Zoldyck family
Oh,
that
man,
tends to
he's
carry
so
out
powerful.
big jobs with Silva. He's an expert in combat,
He's so
with
powerful.
his age having not affected his superiority over most opponents in battle. He's a friend of Netero,
Yep.
he cracks a joke every now and then, and while killing is his job, he doesn't enjoy it and only feels pride in the fact that he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
He usually won't kill unless there's a reward for
Yeah,
it.
he didn't want to
or
even
unless
kill.
there's an
And
annoying
then
cheetah man bugging
Silva
him.
just goes BAM!
Something that I think is fascinating about Zeno is that he definitely has a heart and tries to avoid killing innocents at all costs.
He's just so
As we
strong.
see during the Chimera Ant arc, Zeno will not stoop so low as to disrespect genuine showings of human care,
Yeah, he just
and
like,
he is
you
totally
take her
against
away.
harming innocents that aren't part of contracts. In my opinion, he actually strikes a balance between being efficient at his job, yet retaining some basic human decency. And
He was
I know that I'm
annoyed.
talking about an assassin here, so keep in mind that I'm talking about human decency relative to the confines of the Zoldycks.
Yeah, he was annoyed that
Zeno
he
is the
hurt
chief
someone.
mediator of most jobs, and the
That was
supervisor
not a
of most of
target.
the servants as well. Like his daughter-in-law and son, he believes Killua to be special and has high hopes for him. I do realize that assassins can't be classified as regular, decent people, but I
Well,
really
yeah.
believe that Zeno is the most balanced person in the family. He
And
does
he's
his
so
job and no
strong.
more than is needed. He isn't unnecessarily cruel, and while he is an advocate of some pretty ridiculous customs for his family, he never does anything that one would classify as insane. The Zoldyck family dynamics are convoluted and potentially destructive, but Zeno is not a contributor to the complications. In fact, take Zeno out of the equation, and I'm pretty sure that the family business would be far worse off.
Yeah.
Take both him and his son out of the equation, and there would likely be no family business.
It would just explode and be all over the place. Illumi Zoldyck.
Last but definitely not least, we come to a man who is one of the chief causes of the unusual dynamics within the Zoldyck
I don't like
family.
him.
Kikyo is obsessive, Silva is unfeeling, Miluki is immature, but Ilumi's fixation on his little brother is the primary cause of a lot of
I
conflict.
just don't like him.
And the funny thing is, he absolutely cares for his family other than Aluka, though unhealthily in the case of Killua, which may be a trait he picked up from his mother.
Mm.
He does whatever he can to protect his family members, even going so far as to offer his own life in exchange for theirs during the election arc. Illumi is a great assassin. He's ruthless,
Yeah, he's really
detached,
powerful.
and carries
Well,
out
don't
his
get me
job
wrong,
with minimal
it's not that I don't
fuss.
like
He also has an unusual sort
that
of
he's in it.
relationship with Hisoka, one that could be
It just
perceived
causes
as
so much
friendship,
shit for
as the
Killua.
two do tend to help each other out, even though the end result in most of these cases ends up being mutually beneficial. Illumi is generally calm in almost all circumstances, including when he's seriously injured. But all of these traits of his take a back seat when Killua is involved. Illumi has a total and complete love for his brother, and this love manifests itself in obsessive and twisted ways.
It is
He
obsessive.
takes it to another level. Along with his father, Illumi spent a lot of time during Killua's early childhood trying to instill a darkness in him, and
So
convince him
messed
that
up
he can
that he
only
did
find
that to him.
happiness through bloodshed. Illumi's main Nen power involves manipulative needles, which he can use to alter appearance and control others, among other things. These needles obviously have practical use in combat, but another significant function for them is using them to quote-unquote protect Killua. Illumi plants a needle in Killua as a psychological defense
So
mechanism
that he
that will
always
force him
runs
to
away.
run whenever he's facing a stronger opponent. And he also disguises himself in order to keep an eye on his brother during the Hunter exam. He legitimately does want the best for Killua, But the
Boy,
problem
it's
is
so
that his ideas
wrong.
of what's best for Killua are warped, and thus he goes about everything the wrong way. Due to the ideologies instilled in the Zoldyck family, Illumi cannot understand and dismisses Killua's desire to become close with Gon, believing in his one-sided viewpoint that it is detrimental to Killua's development. Illumi's reaction to Hisoka's suggestion to kill
Oh
Killua
my god,
says
he was like,
more
you
than words
best
ever
not.
could of his care for his brother, but he pushes him away more than his mother and forms an even stronger antithesis to Killua's ideal self than his father. Apart from his strong love, Illumi is an example of a successful Zoldyck, and this proves more than ever to Killua that he doesn't want to live like this. In times of personal struggle for Killua, where he tried to overcome the habits of his upbringing, he would repeatedly say things like, "I want friends," or "I don't want to be like Illumi." And while these are huge moments in Killua's character arc, they also add a tiny bit of a tragic element to Illumi.
They
The
kind
irony of
do.
Illumi is that all he wants is to love and protect Killua, but
he
he's
doesn't have
so
to go about it.
obsessive, narrow-minded, and extreme in his methods that they actually have the opposite effect.
Yeah, they push him away.
He just doesn't trust that Killua knows what's best for himself, when in all reality, that trust and freedom is exactly what Killua needs. I should draw attention to the fact that Illumi also has another side to his character, a power-hungry, ambitious side that greatly lusts to possess Alaka's gifts.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah, he wants it.
Suboni reflects that Illumi's ambition for Alaka's power may even overpower his sense of duty as an assassin. And due to Killua's special privilege regarding Alaka's power, Illumi wants to control his brother even more. Illumi is largely paradoxical. He wishes for no infighting within the family, but is a cause of a lot of it.
Yeah,
He loves his family and values his job, but actively hunts down a family member to control and harness power. A time may come where Illumi has to choose between the side of him that loves his family and wishes for no inner conflict,
and
the side of him that desires power.
Yeah.
And I personally can't wait to see where the story goes. A good amount of intrigue with the Zoldicks involves potential, and how the differences in motivations and personality could lead to major events down the road. And no one personifies this better than Illumi. There are so many elements to the Zoldyck family that it's a little bit overwhelming to think about repercussions that certain actions can have. Just imagine a major event happening in the future, like Kaluto getting killed by Hisoka, for example, and try to imagine all of the Zoldyck-based consequences that would stem from that one act.
Whoa.
Then think of the effect that these consequences would have on the entirety of the Hunter x Hunter world. It's truly mind-boggling. This family of assassins is incredibly deep with their dynamics, and a lot of Togashi's insane attention to detail can be found in their narrative design. It's pretty obvious that the story of the Zoldicks is far from concluded, but at the moment,
there's a lot
they serve as an
to
interesting
keep
background
going
element of
with.
Hunter x Hunter. They're not the focus of every arc, but they really don't
No.
need to be.
They're
They're both
not.
an intriguing study
It's like
of
Ahsoka
family
doesn't need to be
values,
there all the
favoritism
time.
psychology, and the
That's what I
intricacies
love
of free
about it.
will, and also simply a sort of
When you
ace
come
in
into it, it
the
makes them more
that
interesting.
The audience must always be thinking about, as
Fight
they can
against
make their
Krollo was
presence felt
amazing.
in the blink of an eye. And more often than not, when any of the Zoldyck family feels the need or are required to make their presence felt, sparks fly.
Yes.
Thanks as always to everyone for the support. The Zoldyck family was a pretty highly requested topic that a lot of people wanted me to cover.
Very understandable.
But funnily enough, I had never really had a solid grasp of what fans think of them. I do read every comment, so don't hesitate to tell me what you think of them, as I've really not got a clue what the common fan thinks. If you want, you can hit me up on Twitter or my anime list, because I'm pretty active on there. But otherwise, that's all for now, and I'll see you all later.
Boss video. Boss video. I love how he doesn't mess us about with the outros. Just, it's there. That's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Boss. Yeah, there's some really, really good discussion on the Zoldyck family. That was awesome. Very, very cool discussion points in that. I liked the graph, which showed how everyone's interacted with everyone. That was awesome. That was, I loved that so much. I loved it a lot. I love these discussion videos because I love Hunter x Hunter so much, and it's cool to like have like other things brought to it. So like, because I like to overthink things, and it's cool when someone does it and then puts it into a video, and I then get to watch and go, "Yo, decent point, bro." Alexander's cool. So yeah, you guys, again, this wasn't something you guys suggested. You want me to watch the Krollo video that he's done, but I'm going to keep leaving that because apparently there's going to be from 1 or 2 comments some spoilers, so I'm going to wait until I've got these manga volumes through the post, and I'm going to watch them because it's volume 33 and 34. But someone also recommended that I get 32 because the last chapter of 32 is not in the anime. The anime finishes like just before the last chapter of 32, which is really annoying, so I'm going to have to get 32, 33, 34. I'm going to read those, and then I'll probably do the Chrollo video at some point, but he's got some other ones as well, and he's got other non-Hunter x Hunter related videos I really want to get into. He's got some Full Metal Alchemist ones and stuff, which would be really cool to watch. I love this stuff. I love learning things. It's cool, and I appreciate that you guys like watching these as well. And I love reading your comments. So thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. It's all you guys next time.